Minasan, welcome everyone. But my little ladies, it's me, the most fascinating senpai in the world. You see, I give Doki reading team's pretty manager, Naganafujifuji, a rickshaw ride in exchange for making me the host of this week's chapter. It's the last one in volume 11, and you know what to say, saving the best for last, which means me. So make sure to show some love to me and the reading team by hitting like and subscribe buttons. This week chapters 7 and 8 of volume 11, but mainly 8, are about me giving a rickshaw ride to a beautiful lady friend of Shimamura. What's her name? Why can there be another chapter after this? A chapter of me getting to know the pretty friend a little better will spike up these light novels' popularity and sales for sure. But such is life. Anyhow, hop into my rickshaw with your number one friend, cause it's time to Adashima and chill. A rickshaw. Chapter 7. Not just in the summer. Walking back home from the skills school, I happened to come across a child's panda.
Huh.
Certainly not the animal I'd been expecting to find around the corner. For a moment, I could feel my legs freezing up. Panda was carrying a blue backpack. The bag was quite large, maybe even larger than the person carrying it. Who did I know might walk around as a panda? Jackie, of course. Was it her? I decided to go take a look.
Hmm.
As my eyes met with the girl, the very first thing I noticed was that she was really short, even shorter than Jackie. Next were her eyes. They were cloudy and sparkled with a soft white light.
Oh, what?
Ah, deja vu.
I could swear something like this had happened to me last year too. Had it been a panda that time too? Maybe, though I couldn't remember for sure. I'd mistaken a person for Yachi and had called out to them. What if it, what it had been about their appearance from behind that had made me think that I didn't know. So while their face did not look like Yachi's at all, something about it did remind me of her. The girl's hair glimmered with the silver light, and their eyelashes were equally radiant. While Yachi's eyes were mainly purple, hers were pale blue. It was as if I was looking at a picture of the planet Earth taken from space.
Hmm? Do you know me?
Do I know you? Well, no, but I think I've seen you before.
Hmm.
As if that was all she had to say, the panda turned around and began walking away from me. For how short she was, the way she spoke sounded very mature. I watched her toddle away before deciding to run after her.
Hmm?
You shouldn't leave a child alone.
He he he. I laughed while lifting up my index finger.
Child?
The panda asked, looking very confused.
Well, whatever.
and thus she allowed me to walk by her side. Shining inside her hood, her hair looked so delicate, so fragile it might break were you touch it. I could hardly look away. She looked like being lit by moonlight. At the same time, her cheeks all seemed like they could stretch pretty far.
That's a pretty big bag you've got there.
I needed something to carry all the things I was given when I said I was heading out.
She followed her comment with a giggle.
Where are your mom and dad? Are you lost?
Not this time, no.
Having answered only the latter of my questions, the panda lifted up her finger and pointed into the distance, signaling me to follow her. I said to do just that. We walked through an intersection, past a park, and finally reached a small graveyard. The graveyard only contained a handful of graves, surrounded by an extremely well-kept field of grass. Having not visited all that many graveyards in the past, simply standing there was enough to make me feel a little squeamish. After a bit of walking, the panda eventually stopped in front of a particularly large grave. I'd tell you what the name written on it was, but there was unfortunately far too many characters that I did not recognize.
Whose grave is this?
Was that an appropriate thing to ask? I could have been her friend, her family member, perhaps a grandparent. The more I thought about it, the more I began to feel like I should have just kept my mouth shut.
I'm not sure myself.
Huh?
However, I made a promise to them.
The panda pulled out a tin jar filled with candy from inside her bag. With that, she then
Apparently,
placed the jar on
apparently, keeping promises is sort of like a pastime for us.
With that, she then placed the jar onto the grave.
A pastime?
Yes, something you do even though it won't get you anything.
Finally, she tossed the bag on her shoulders.
Alright, that's enough. Let's eat.
She stated, picking up the jar of candy she just laid down.
Give me your hand. I'll share it with you.
Are you sure?
These things are meant to be eaten, are they not?
She laughed. Her laugh sounded very mean-spirited, not matching the way she spoke in the slightest. One by one, the purple, blue, and white candies fell onto my palm. They were the spiky sort, and hard enough where I could feel them poking my skin. At the same time, it also looked like were I not to eat them right away, they'd melt down into a pulp. The panda took the remaining candies and tossed them all into her mouth at once. After a brief moment of hesitation, I decided to do the same. There we were, the two of us standing in front of a grave, with our cheeks full of candy. The panda let out a laugh and said it I. Following this sad grave visit, I decided to try asking her to come over.
Wanna drop by my place before you go? I have a friend who I think might really like you.
Naturally, I was thinking about Jackie. The panda thought for a moment before answering.
Sorry, but I need to be home by dinner.
Huh.
So she did have a home then. In the middle of a bamboo thicket, perhaps? All of a sudden, she shifted her focus towards my head. Specifically, she was staring at the thread of blue hair still wrapped around my finger. Even after all this time, the wings of that butterfly still shone with the same light they had that day.
What is it?
I feel like I've seen this color before.
Color? The blue? Oh, so you do know Yachi then?
Goodbye.
Not even bothering to let me finish, the panda turned around and toddled away.
That's so like Yachi.
But in the way she'd randomly run away, and I had felt like you could never catch up to her. I wonder, will I be seeing her again come next year? Summer truly was the most mysterious of seasons. I turned my back to the grave and began heading back home, excited to tell Yachi about this encounter. I ran just slightly faster than usual.
Well, welcome back.
Oh, wow. You were right.
As I opened the door, I was greeted by Mom and the dolphin sitting on her head. Summer might have been the most mysterious of the seasons, but it looked like her house was full of it throughout the year.
Chapter 8 Remember 22 Today we were traveling far away. Farther than you possibly could in a single step, no matter how much you stretch your leg. When was the last time I'd been on board a bullet train? I honestly couldn't recall. The train was far faster than I thought, and the seats far more comfortable.
Right?
I asked Adachi, sitting next to me. Obviously she had no idea what I'd just been thinking, and thus couldn't possibly know what I was referring to. Yet, the confused look on her face only remained for a moment.
Yeah.
What a nice response. Yes, nice. Glancing out the window, I could see my 22nd summer speeding past me. The sight made me reminisce about all the previous summers I had experienced so far in my life. There were the elementary school summers when all I did was laugh, the middle school summers that I had wanted to end as soon as possible, and then the high school summers when I had just met Adachi. With each summer that came, I was able to regain a new bit of radiance. All the things I'd be better off not remembering, as well as the thing I didn't want to remember, gradually changed color, little by little becoming easier for me to look back to. I might not have been all that good with names, or with face, yet when it came to myself, it felt like I never forgot a single thing. Did that make me a self-centered individual? Perhaps. As for Adachi, likewise 22 years old, her hair was noticeably longer than it had been during high school. The way her hair curled evoked a certain feeling of youth, all the while outlining a very beautiful and very mature profile. I wasn't able to pinpoint exactly when the change had occurred, but sometime between then and now, smiles had started to look quite good on her face. I'd always heard people talking about how cold and callous she was, but personally, I'd yet to meet that side of her. Probably for the best, honestly. We were currently traveling towards a town famous for its beautiful scenery, it being the summer vacation season. I had to imagine that we weren't going to be the only tourists there. The mere thought of being stuck in a crowd in the summer heat made me want to throw up, which then led to the question, why had we chosen this location? Well, as it turned out, there was actually a very simple answer to that. Being located on the very east side of the country, it was the closest we could get to our dream location, without actually having to travel overseas. Was this a common reason for people to travel eastwards? Most certainly not. I should also add, the town was located quite close to the ocean. The smell of seawater in the air would undoubtedly make the experience feel even more exotic.
Wow. Shimamura, look.
I shifted my gaze towards Adachi, only to find her holding a tiny crane on her palm. It appeared that she turned the wrapping paper of the bento box we purchased as we boarded into the origami. Was she merely bored? Or did she want to show off her origami skills? That I didn't know. Watching as she held up the paper bird with a look of pride on her face, all I could do was smile. With us eventually reaching the end of the Shinkansen line, we were forced to switch over to a regular train for the rest of our journey. That train was filled to the brim with passengers, leaving with us barely enough room to stand, much less sit down, shoulder against shoulder. Adachi and I stood by the next door, hoping that we could soon reach our destination. Whereas Adachi had taken barely any luggage, the bag I was carrying was quite massive. Did that symbolize anything? Or was it merely a difference in our characters? With the train chugging along, thoughts such as those flowed through my mind. Eventually, without having taken a single step out ourselves, we arrived at our destination. So this was the power of civilization, huh? To be completely honest, I feel a little funny about the whole thing.
Oh, how are you feeling now that we're here?
I asked her as we walked down the station steps. She stared into the distance for a moment, as if thinking about it, before soon giving me an answer.
Not all that different. Not yet.
Now that's a coincidence. I feel the exact same way.
As those words left my mouth, I could see a faint smile of relief forming on her face. She'd gotten quite good at that over the years, smiling. We swiftly passed through the ticket gate and exited the station. There, standing in the sunlight, waited a line of rickshaws, like taxis outside of the airport. Just in case you were wondering just how much of a tourist trap this place really was.
First time seeing one of these in real life.
I commented out loud, pointing my finger vaguely in the direction of the vehicles.
I feel like I'd melt sitting in one of those things.
She replied, "Right. Good point. None of them even had roofs. That said, given just how many were standing by, I guess there must have been quite a bit of a demand for them." Next to one of the rickshaws stood a person I assumed was its puller, a woman. She had blonde hair and was wearing a traditional happy coat. The deep blue sky behind her created just a perfect backdrop. I'd always thought of pulling a rickshaw as one of those super physically intensive jobs, but I guess it couldn't have been that tough if even a young girl like her was able to do it. As I was staring at her, the woman turned around and met our eyes. I froze in place, and so did she. I wonder, which one of us recognized the other more quickly?
Oh, senpai.
Hiroshima, welcome, welcome. Interested in making a nice summer memory? The rickshaw is here for you. Or you'd rather take a taxi? The bus is cheaper? Well, that might be, but the rickshaw is right here. Why spend your time sitting in the sun-cramped vehicle? You could be spending it out in the sun. Let the hellish heat burn this memory into your mind. That way, you'll never forget about your trip here. Even years later, you'll still remember how you nearly burnt alive that day. No need to worry about forgetting about it. In fact, you won't be able to even if you wanted to. Fireworks won't be the only thing scorched into your memory this trip, so what do you say? Wait. Senpai.
After what felt like a straight minute of the woman going through her marketing spiel, she seemed to finally register the very first word I'd said to her, leaving her staring at me all confused. Perhaps I'd been wrong and we actually didn't know each other after all. While that was certainly how her reaction made me feel, I could say with confidence that it was not the case. She was most definitely the same girl I'd been in the basketball club with in middle school. being older than myself, she had graduated a year earlier than I had, though I just so happened to run into her once the year she started high school. Regardless, it was quite the long time ago at this point. That raised the question, how did I, out of all people, still recognize her? Honestly, it must have been her bright blonde hair. Oh, and just to answer my question from earlier, yes, it had definitely been me who recognized her first.
Oh, it's you.
Can you say my name?
The woman froze up. At first, it seemed like an impossible task, though a couple of seconds later, as if that was how long it took for her brain to load, her mouth sprang open.
Shimamura.
Well done.
Sure took you a while.
Sorry, I get a bit too into my job sometimes.
While that might have sounded like a poor attempt at an excuse coming from someone else's mouth, the way she said it made it clear that she was being completely sincere. It was a little weird. For the time I'd known her, I don't think I'd once heard her laugh, and certainly not like this.
How long was it that I last saw you? 6 years? Maybe 7? Enough time for a kid to both enter and graduate grade school.
I suppose.
Weird way to measure time, but okay.
Can't imagine you walking around wearing a school backpack anymore, that's for sure.
You trying to sound like my hint or something?
Anyway, out of all the people, Shimamura, what's her name? Definitely wasn't the one I was expecting to run into here.
Right. I guess I wasn't expecting to see you either.
How could I have when I'd completely forgotten that she existed in the first place? Well, I had until I saw her blonde hair, glimmering like gold thread, at which point it all came rushing back to me.
Shimamura?
Adachi suddenly interjected, pinching my elbow. Why was it that at times like these, it was always my elbow that she went after?
This is a friend of mine from middle school. We were in the same club.
I explained as briefly as I was able. Well, I say briefly, but that pretty much covered everything there was to our relationship. It wouldn't have been wrong to say that I barely knew her. With some slight hesitation, Adachi bowed her head.
Oh my. Aren't you the beauty?
The woman quipped back.
I wouldn't mind at all getting to know you a little better.
Sure.
The way she giggled sounded almost a bit creepy. It was the kind of laugh you let out when you remembered something. While I like to think that I wasn't quite as obvious about it, there was no denying that there were times when I did that too. Now, she thought that Adachi was pretty? While I obviously already thought that myself, I had to admit, there was something special about hearing someone else say it. I shifted my gaze towards Adachi and decided to go for a joke.
Oh yeah, no kidding. She is beautiful.
Huh?
This immediately caused Adachi to blush. Oh, how quickly beautiful changed to adorable. Truly, the world was full of mysteries.
Oh. Are you perhaps jealous?
Let's go with that. Sure.
That was hardly what had happened. No, I had merely been joking around. It was at times like these I was made to realize just how simple of a person I really was.
So, Shimamura, did you and your pretty friend live here? No, that's probably not it. You don't smell like locals.
The way she phrased that made it sound like I wasn't pretty at all. Not that I cared, mind you. Even at my best, I'd only ever been the third prettiest in my class. Although, if you asked Adachi, she'd probably say that they should make a whole new category for me. Or something like that.
No, we're traveling. And you? Are you working here part-time or perhaps full-time?
The latter. There wasn't much of a place for me at home, so I moved out as soon as I graduated. Luckily, I happened to stumble on some decent money, so that was never an issue. Anyway, one thing led to another, and eventually I found myself pulling a rickshaw.
What was that about money?
As if simply joking around, the woman spread her arms wide open. The light of the sun fell onto her like a shower of rain before sliding off her bright golden hair. Watching her, I was reminded of that brief period in my life where I too had dyed my hair. I particularly remembered no one around me liking it. While most of the members of our middle school basketball club could best be described as undermotivated, they were hardly bad at the game, and yet, somehow, she had always found herself a place in the starting lineup. The same could not be said about me. Certainly not after the fight I had with the coach.
Us meeting here must be fate. So, want me give you a ride?
She eagerly motioned towards the seat of her rickshaw. Given that we did have some history together, it would have been very difficult for me to say no here, and based on the gleeful smile on her face, I got the impression that was exactly why she had decided to ask me. What to do. I turned towards Adachi for a second opinion.
What do you say? Wanna go for a ride?
She's friend. Shimamura's friend.
Not exactly an answer to my question, was it? I could see her squinting her eyes as she leered at the woman. This was one part of her that hadn't changed at all, even after all these years, leading me to wonder if it was perhaps a more fundamental aspect of her character than one might have initially expected. Truly, no one was safe from her jealousy. It was a little strange, because from my point of view, she was the one always earning herself looks from strangers, which made me feel, well, honestly, it didn't really make me feel anything, though I will say, I very much appreciated the fact that she preferred dressing modestly.
That's right. We are friends. Good friends. Hey, can we be friends too?
Her arm still raised, the woman proceeded to wave it up and down, causing her extended fingers to move through the air, almost like mini tentacles.
Yet, this only lasted till she saw Adachi's reaction, at which point she froze still.
Right, not friends. Sorry, who are you again? And what did that one call me senpai earlier?
And just like that, she had flipped the whole situation on its head. To give you an example, if she was cooking eggs, this would have been the equivalent of tossing the whole frying pan into the ceiling when you went to flip them.
I guess I must have mistaken you for someone else then. Sorry. Bye.
Come on, I just want to show you an old friend how I do my job these days, that's all.
She sure was doing a good job switching between knowing me and not.
You've carried that change over the years, haven't you?
If I had to sum up the entire conversation we'd had up to this point, those would be the words I'd choose. In response, the woman pushed up the hair from her forehead and offered me a smile. The nostalgic glimmer in her eyes contained a very simple message. You haven't changed one bit.
I guess. I did a bit of a makeover though.
Humming to herself, the woman turned around and walked back to the rickshaw, as if it had already been decided that we'd be letting her give us a ride. A makeover, huh? It would be pretty funny to walk over to the bus stop while she had her back turned towards us. Though, with the way she was acting, I wouldn't be surprised if she came chasing after us, rickshaw and all.
Should we go for a ride? Why not?
I'm still here, you know.
Huh? Oh, yes. Come on, it's not like I forgot about you, Adachi.
Don't just talk with her the whole time, was what she was saying. Yes, yes, I knew. I grabbed her hand, and the two of us walked over to the rickshaw.
Sorry for the lack of a roof, but here's parcel. There should also be some cold water back there, so treat yourself to it, please.
She grabbed a parasol, purple in its color, lying across the seat and handed it to me. The parasol was made out of Japanese paper, and its dry fragrance gently tickled my nose. It was there, staring at her close up, that I noticed something. Across her forehead, one could see a number of faint scars, almost like cut wounds. I continued staring at her for a moment, and while a part of me wanted to ask her if something had happened, I ultimately decided against it. Still holding hands, Adachi and I stuffed ourselves on the back seat. As for the woman, she swiftly took her place in the front.
Here we go. Oh, and I shall ask, do you have a destination in mind? Or do you just want to see the sights?
I turned towards Adachi.
Just a sight.
Roger, Dad.
It made me feel kinda anxious seeing the ground from this high up. Taking a look at the town around us, it was there that I realized something. I, too, couldn't recall the woman's name. What was it again? I could remember her given name being particularly unique, but not much more.
I've gotta say, Shimamura, you're sure her careless.
The woman stated over her shoulder.
Hmm?
You really shouldn't have gotten on without asking the price.
He giggled, sounding like a child who had just pulled off a successful prank.
How much is it?
3,000 yen for 15 minutes.
Huh, that's expensive.
And a very short ride on top of it. How far could you realistically get in 15 measly minutes?
Well, since there are two of you, it's technically only half of that. How does the saying go again? Twice the friends, twice the joy, twice the people to split the bill with?
Definitely not like that, but I do get what you're saying.
I pulled open the parasol she'd given us and placed it so that both Adachi and I were in its shade. Given its color, it kinda made it look like we were being showered with purple rain. As for the heat, well, it realistically didn't do much of anything. And yet, I could swear that the purple helped me cool down.
Good enough.
I stated, prompting Adachi to smile softly. Her smile was calm, relaxed. All words that couldn't have been used to describe the Adachi of old.
So, first of all, here you can see some Jisoo statues.
I guess we'd already reached the first side of the tour. I had a peek outside, and indeed saw 6 Jizo statues standing there, each wearing a piece of red cloth as an apron. As for the rickshaw, it simply kept on rolling along.
You're not gonna tell us about their story? Or share a funny anecdote or something?
Nope, don't know any. I'm not a local, you see.
Right.
If that's what you're interested in, I advise to take a ride from a different rickshaw driver next.
You're a pretty good salesman. Just not for your own business.
Well, let me ask you this then. Would you rather hear a series of the famous places? Or stories of how Shimamura was in middle school?
Oh, stop it.
About how Shimamura was in middle school?
Of course Adachi would be interested in that. I shook my shoulders.
Rather than the past, how about we talk about the future instead?
Let's see, Mukashi. This one happened in the summer of her first year. Shimamura, what's her name? Annoyed by a teammate of hers constantly telling her to pass the ball, decided to shut her up by pulling a.
I said stop it!
How come she had barely recognized me, but then also remembered these kinds of random stories? Oh, And in case you were curious, that thing happened during our first practice match, during which the girl also kicked me, which then led to a legitimate fistfight between us. Kinda weird that I still kept playing after that. Personally, I would have liked to bury that version of myself in a hole and stick an ice cream stick or something on it as a gravestone. The only problem was, it felt like Adachi might dig her up.
Do you really want to hear those kind of old stories about me?
On one hand, yes. I want to know everything there is to know about you. But on the other, I might get sad that I wasn't there.
She explained, holding her hand against her chest. I wasn't going to say I didn't understand what she was trying to get at, but at the same time...
You really don't want to know that. Honestly, I'm glad that I didn't meet you back then. Believe me when I say, I was absolutely not a nice person.
There was no doubt in my mind that we would have both ended up hating each other.
Are you saying you're a nice person now, then?
The woman commented, smirking.
I thought about it for a moment before pinching my cheek.
I try.
That's good try.
It sounded as if that was exactly the response she had wanted to hear.
Still, between yourself and your pretty friend, I'd say she more so gives off the energy of someone who's having a hard time just living.
Huh?
This unkind remark immediately caused Adachi's expression to freeze over. Oh, so this was the cold Adachi had heard so much about. Good job bringing her out.
And I very much love people like that.
You could practically see the thorns in Adachi's voice. Paying no attention to this, the woman simply continued smiling. She smiled, all the while gritting her teeth in order to muster the strength necessary to keep the rickshaw moving. Truly, she had a very dexterous face.
So, Shimamura, you should be what? Fourth year in university? So is it like your graduation trip or something?
Something like that, yes.
I suppose it would be more accurate to say that it was a rehearsal for the real thing. Though, not knowing how I'd go about explaining the whole story to her, I decided to just leave it at that.
And this beauty? Is you're a university buddy?
What was I meant to say to that? I mean, clearly, this was just an innocent question, and yet, for whatever reason, I found myself hesitating.
I'm her girlfriend.
Adachi swiftly interjected. The rickshaw immediately came to a stop, and the woman pulling it turned around. Our eyes met, and as if to say yes, I lifted my hand, still grasping Adachi's. That's right. She was my girlfriend. I turned to look at Adachi. She sure had come a long way, being able to say that without any hesitation.
Interesting.
But is
That you've actually fallen in love with someone.
Well, that was a pretty rude thing to say, was it not?
I mean, even in school, you were never really into anyone, were you?
well, maybe not like that, but I mean, I did sort of have a crush.
Huh?
It wasn't the woman who just gasped, but Adachi. Oops, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Shimamura, you had a crush?
Oh, please, not you too. Why does everyone seem to think I have a heart made out of ice?
I wouldn't even call it a crush necessarily. It was more me thinking, this person is nice. Not love, but like, or something.
I guess it goes to show that everyone is capable of love. All you need is... Huh? Adachi? Why are you making that face?
It looked just like the face my sister made when she ate something she didn't like. Except, if she had also simultaneously bit her lip, she was very clearly unsatisfied with something. And I felt like I had an idea as to what that something might have been.
If there was a hamster here, I think it might bite you.
What's that supposed to mean?
Honestly, no clue. It was a very difficult thing to explain through words. I pulled out my phone in order to take a picture and show it to her, only for Adachi to quickly grab the device out of my hand.
Anyway, something wrong?
Oh, it's just...
How long ago had it been that I'd last seen her like this, genuinely pouting? I couldn't help but smile a little bit.
Well, I always wanted to be your first love.
I guess that would have been pretty romantic. Oh, but don't worry. You're definitely the first person I've ever gone out with.
That was a good point of compromise, right? Surely. It was for me, at least. Adachi nodded her head, though just looking at her, it was clear that there was at least a part of her that didn't find this at all acceptable.
You're funny. First you're like, oh, the whole world's my enemy, and then turn into the most innocent maiden there ever was.
That's enough of that. Besides, I really only just thought they were interesting. There wasn't much more to it than that.
That's a very wholesome first crush then.
The way she said that made it sound like there was something more to it. Had hers perhaps not been over quite so fast? Had it been more tenacious? Tenacious love? What did that even mean? Not knowing when to give up, perhaps?
So, it was in middle school, huh? Who was it? Kido? Or maybe Shinkawa?
Who are those people?
Was it someone I knew?
The woman proceeded to giggle, almost as if our ages had been reversed.
Oh, right! It could have been a girl too. Was it maybe someone from the club then? Wait, it wasn't me, was it? Or what?
Obviously not.
Contrary to her current appearance, she had been way more normal in the past. It was such a big difference between the two that it honestly made me wonder if she had perhaps hit her head or something. Then again, didn't I know someone who had changed quite a bit herself? I turned towards Adachi, causing our eyes to meet. Perhaps this was a bit more common than I had at first imagined. As for Adachi, I could see her eyes trembling with a certain anxiety, leading me to wonder how exactly she had interpreted my gaze.
Really, it wasn't.
I went ahead and restated.
Right, I was pretty boring back then.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. It was more like you seemed like you had no time to spare.
The woman spent a moment chewing on my remark. Not long after, a smile appeared on her face.
Still, an accurate assessment. As much as I enjoy reminiscing about the past, I thought I could make this a daily or even a weekly occurrence.
Are you that busy with your job?
You betcha. One of the many perks of being this pretty.
Now that's some incredible self-confidence.
Not that she was wrong.
Well, what can I say? I'm second in popularity only behind the association boss. That guy's something else. He knows all about this town and as well as its history. Doesn't help that he was already famous even before he started here. Anyway, the point I'm making is that it pays to be pretty. I bet it was easy for your girlfriend to swoon you with her looks.
And just like that, she had switched the topic over to Adachi.
Was it?
Adachi asked. staring at me intensely. Had I been swooned by her looks? From a certain point of view, I suppose you could phrase it like that. I mean, there certainly had been times when I found myself staring deeply at her portrait, both translucent and so full of sorrow.
It wasn't difficult to conclude that wanting to see her face again had been, at least in part, the reason why I had continued visiting the second floor of the gym.
I always thought you were pretty, Adachi, from the very first moment I saw you.
Those words, coming straight from my heart, painted Adachi's face with a tinge of crimson. Somehow, the scene just kept growing more and more colorful.
You did? Oh.
Her voice rippled, as if a stone had been tossed into the lake of her heart. Softly, like calm waves, those ripples gently shook me.
I thought you were really beautiful too, Shimamura.
The third most beautiful in our class?
No, the most beautiful in the world.
If my comment had been the equivalent of poking her with a single finger, Adachi's was more akin to thrusting back with a wooden log. It was a miracle that I managed to stay on my feet.
Oh, thanks.
While for me, that was an obvious exaggeration. For Adachi, it was the truth of the universe. It was at moments like these when I was made cognizant of the differences in our views of the world that I found myself most relieved to have her by my side.
See? Told ya you'd be able to make some sweet memories.
Thanks for ruining the moment.
And here you can see the very famous Story Gate. People who commonly pass through it include couples, newlyweds, as well as little kids on a school trip. Look at it just up ahead from it, you can find a shrine.
I guess we were still doing this whole sightseeing thing. Rather than her actually talking herself, it more sounded like she turned on an audio recording of a proper guide. I shifted my gaze towards the indicated direction, and there, standing in the middle of the road, I did indeed see a torii, guarded by a pair of stone lion dogs. There was also a group of women taking pictures of the thing, seemingly here on a tour. Taking another look around, my eyes came across a convenience store, and opposite to it, an entrance to the station. While not the exact same one we'd come from, it did appear that we'd made a circle.
This appears to be a popular location for taking photos. Every time I pass by here, I can't help but wonder what might happen were I to barge straight through it.
I imagine you do your job.
Such is life.
The rickshaw quickly rolled past the torii. With the lights of the cameras flashing below us, it almost made it feel like we were passing through some sort of a nightly festival. Perhaps it was due to the elevation too that the sound of the wind blowing against the road sounded so loud in my ears. I focused my nose, and I swear that in the distance, I could smell the ocean waves. A few moments passed until the woman randomly raised her head.
Oh, yeah. There's a store over there.
That there was, built into the corner of the building. The parking lot located in front of it was likewise packed to the brim with cars.
Wow. I see that they have building here too.
For real, talk about overdevelopment. Oh, by the way, your 15 minutes are up. Well, like an extension?
Nope, we're getting off.
You can find the exit on the right hand side. Make sure to pick up all your belongings and something something.
And just like that, the rickshaw pulled to a stop by the sidewalk. Not even bothering to wipe the sweat off her forehead, the woman pulled out a tiny stepladder and placed it on the ground to help us get off. Adachi went first before turning around and giving me a hand. I grabbed the parasol from the seat, folded it, and handed it back to the woman.
So tell me, were you satisfied with your ride?
With the part where it didn't feel like I was being interrogated? Sure.
I'd appreciate it greatly if you could answer just to the first question in the survey.
That survey being where?
Doki said, Shimamura, I do have something I need to talk to you about. Oh, and you still need to pay me.
Okay, sure.
Talk to me, as in, me alone. It was quite sad that I already had to let go of Adachi's.
Could you give us a moment, Adachi? Looks like she wants to talk to me about something.
Talk to you? About what?
Well, obviously, I don't know that. She hasn't told me yet.
Adachi's grip on my hand grew tighter, her fingers slightly poking mine. She'd only met the woman, and yet already she was treating her like a potential threat. Perhaps this was the secret behind her always trying so hard. She had absolutely no confidence in herself.
Nothing bad will happen, okay?
Okay.
And there came the puppy eyes. She was so good at this. Practically a natural. Leaving Adachi waiting in front of a nearby thrift store, I walked back over to the woman, already holding her wallet in hand.
So, like I said before, that'll be 3,000 yen.
Yeah.
Pulling her wallet open, the woman let out a giggle. It appeared she had noticed Adachi staring at her.
What? Now tell me, what's up with her? She making sure that I don't try laying a hand on you?
Yeah, she can get like that sometime. You know, jealous.
Giggling, the woman held out her palm and I placed the money on it. All 3,000 yen. No friends discount for me. Host.
Thank you for your patronage. No, she's really such a nice girl. Hey, let me have a go with her, will you? I'm not joking. Just give me permission, and I will make a pass at her.
One look at her face made it clear that she really did mean it.
um,
The truth is, I'm into women too, and she's just my type. Huh, maybe a bit too tall, but otherwise, perfect.
Again, it didn't sound at all that she was joking. Huh, didn't know that about her. There were quite a few people around me that were like that, I found. I guess alike people really did attract one another. That aside, would I be willing to do that? Give Adachi away? What would happen to me without her? The thought of it alone made me feel like I was about to faint. No, definitely not.
sorry, you can't do that.
The only one in this world you could truly grant such a permission to was yourself. I knew this, and yet I denied her. I denied her the permission to lay her hands on Adachi, not for her sake, but my own. Seemingly satisfied with my sharp refusal, the woman nodded her head.
Maybe I'll try to seduce her behind your back then. I'll have you know I'm a real master at that.
Hey,
Just kidding. As much as I do like hitting on other people's women, I see no possibility of it working out here.
It never does with loyal women like her, she added, laughing at herself. I mean, yeah? Wasn't that the very definition of loyalty? Meanwhile, the woman pulled out a towel and used it to wipe the sweat off of her forehead.
I apologize in advance, but I'm going to say something really selfish here.
Okay.
Take good care of your girlfriend, Shimamura. Belly her.
Watching her using the towel to wipe her forehead, I was reminded of all those casual conversations we'd used to have after club was over.
Do what I couldn't.
Huh?
I failed, but yeah. You can do it. I believe in you.
Senpai.
Was this perhaps somehow related to the scars on her forehead? Anyhow, she'd been right. This was a pretty selfish thing to say. And yet, in the fact that she'd warned me beforehand, I could see a trace of the past.
Now then, looks like this is as far as I'm able to accompany you.
Right. I'm not paying for any extension.
I could almost hear her smacking her tongue. That had to have been my imagination, right?
Wherever you go, no matter how long passes, make sure to always love each other.
Stop yelling.
And if you happen to get tired along the way, note that there's always a friendly rickshaw waiting for you just behind the corner.
Holding on to the shafts of the rickshaw, she gave her wrists a quick twist, almost as if turning the steering wheel of a car or something.
Maybe you can go for another ride or 5 during this trip?
Are you getting paid on commission or something?
It's just boring when there's no one to talk to.
Now, where might I find more customers? I could hear her add on her way out. Apparently, at the station, given that was clearly the direction she was heading in. I watched as she slowly disappeared into the distance, her hair shining brighter than even the silver wheels of her rickshaw.
Good speed, Senpai.
I went out of my way to use a phrase not part of my regular lexicon. And, just like that, our relationship had advanced by a whole 15 minutes. I suppose that was more than appropriate for us. The woman turned around and smiled to me one last time, just like she had in middle school.
Arigato, thank you. Have a great vacation.
And just like that, she had transformed into a proper rickshaw puller, leaving a nice final impression. As I had learned over my years of dating Adachi, being pretty enough actually made that very easy to pull off. Watching her disappear into the distance, as if melting to become one with the scenery, I suddenly remembered something. That something being her name.
Right. I remember reading it the wrong way the first time, and her getting really annoyed.
Thinking about just how funny that interaction had been in retrospect, I made my way back over to Adachi's side.
What a weirdo.
I suppose.
Still, nowhere near as weird as the two weirdos at our house.
Still, looked like she was doing pretty well for herself. That's always nice.
Though I'd chosen against saying farewell, I really didn't feel like I was ever going to see her again. At the same time, if that were to happen, I bet I would remember her the instant I saw her blonde hair.
Now then, where shall we go next? Maybe do some souvenir shopping? No. We can do that on our way back.
I'd actually been given some money to do that with, you see. Just before our departure, a friendly tanuki had shown up and handed me a 500 yen coin. What had she asked me to buy her, Well, candy, of course. Being Tanuki money, I did wonder if it would perhaps transform into a leaf at some point. But no, it was still just an ordinary coin.
Where would you like to go, Adachi?
Wherever you are, Shimamura.
This answer left her mouth without even a second of hesitation.
But I'm already here?
I held out my hand, around which Adachi tightly wrapped her fingers. As usual, it was impossible to tell which one of us was leading the other along.
It's so sad to think that I will never be able to spend the first 15 years of my life with you.
She stated, as if her mind was still on our earlier conversation. She was practically saying that, instead of viewing the sceneries, she had been looking at me the whole time. Thinking about it that way, I could feel the heat of summer starting to burn my cheeks.
Do you think you still feel that way, even as decades pass?
More Shimamura is always better.
That's so like you, Adachi.
I'd been so poisoned by Adachi's hunger, her insatiable desire to taste each and every part of me, that all I could do at this point was laugh. Going to new places, staying at the town I called home, wherever, whenever, Adachi would always be there by my side. My world orbited the bright star that was her. As it emerged from beyond the horizon, its light illuminated all. At this point, it was fair to say that Adachi was my world.
I've been thinking lately. I'm probably more in love with you than I even realize.
I stated, taking a couple of quick steps forward so that she couldn't see my face, so that her voice couldn't reach my ears. Obviously, I couldn't get that far away, what with her holding my hand and all, but I tried my best regardless. My feet, scorched by the heat of summer, felt light as feathers. Where should we go? What kind of memories should we make? Not that the latter part was a problem. Plenty of those were already being made in my mind. Memories of being with Adachi. I could only hope that one day they would burst like bubbles to shower me with happiness. There we were, the two of us, traveling through the summer, acting like it would never end, all the while knowing that one day it would. Wherever we went, no matter how long passed, we would always love each other. You've activated my super exclusive mega secret epilogue script! Yashiro here! Although the club is on hiatus for now, me and my brethren will be back again one day for volume 12. Please look out for it. Ho 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 ho! And until then, thank you everyone for joining along for Doki Doki Reading Club's project, Adashima and Chill. Now it's time to get more donuts. See you again. And, as is customary in the universe, I shall now unleash a farewell ritual of what you earthlings call love by singing to my favoritist reader Neo, who had a birthday last week. Happy birthday to you.
Happy
birthday
birthday to you.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday, dear Neo. Happy birthday to you.
I accidentally said Nero, but whatever, Neo. Yeah.
I messed up in the middle. Yeah. Happy belated birthday.
Happy
Happy birthday.
Neo.
And
You
thank
Hush.
you all for accompanying us.
Thanks. I didn't expect that. Not especially not on like this such a special day, since this is the end of volume 11. So I definitely did not expect you to sing me a happy birthday song today. I really appreciate it though.
Neko also had a birthday, so I'm just. We should have sung it too.
Oh right,
All
you
right.
Oh.
did.
You too, Neko.
Shake
That was a month ago,
shake
but
my
thank you.
head. Shake my head. All right, I'm gonna close this on YouTube.
Bye.
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 Thank you again.
Take care.